So in our yeah, I know. There's no S. That would be horrible if there was an S. It is the 19th letter of the alphabet, so that would mean you'd have to have 19 choices before you got to S there. Um, when we talk about the central idea and themes of the passage here, we want to think about really this is what we're talking about. Okay, author, if you were to just tell me one brief sentence, why did you write this here? That's what we're talking about with our central ideas. So we're going to look a lot for topic sentences, transitions and relationships there, supporting details. Now, Boris and I want to bring up a point about supporting details here. So let's say, for instance, I don't know what this example could possibly be inspired by here, but it snowed a crazy amount in Pittsburgh. In fact, before it got dark, when I started teaching my previous class, it was still snowing, which is there. So notice here, we've got a topic because we've got charged words. This, oh, it snowed a crazy amount. It wasn't just like, say, I said it snowed. It's like, okay, did it just like sprinkle a little bit, like the snowing sprinkles, nothing stuck there? Or was it a bad snowstorm? And yeah, it was a bad one here. But if we follow this up, and I said, like, oh, it took me a long time to shovel, and I was very, very tired afterwards. I've just provided you with a bunch of details here in addition to that. But let Boris let me know in the chat here. Did this change the main idea of this sentence here, or the little paragraph here? No, the point was still literally just that it snowed a crazy amount in Pittsburgh here. It's we have other details there to help support that. So when we think about supporting details, note that if a question asks about those details, those very specific things, yeah, you can go there. But if we're just thinking about big picture, big ideas here, note that the details are there, but know that those details are there in order to support the main idea. And the main idea is what we really, Boris and I really want you taken away from first from the passage there. Okay. Well, fortunately for you, clear writing typically involves having a topic sentence be the first sentence of the paragraph there. It's not going to be universal, but that is always a great place to start. Is when you are reading through a passage, you get to a paragraph here that the author is going to introduce that main idea pretty quickly there. Because otherwise, I mean, like, let's be honest, like if you're reading something, do you if you're reading something for enjoyment, do you want the author to be convoluted and just say like, yeah, no, I'm gonna make you guess. Let's just get through this whole like half-page paragraph before you figure out what I'm trying to say here. No, that's not good writing there. And so the GED, one thing you can always expect when you have a passage is that it's going to be well written. In other words, there is going to be something that makes it clear like this is the topic that the author is trying to get forward here. This. So for instance, take a look at this example. This is actually from not from where we're from, but Boris and I are both from Ohio. In fact, from the same part of Ohio. But take a look through this here and read through this and let us know what is if you're to tell us what is the main idea, the topic sentence here, Which one is it? Excellent. Yeah, everything else is details about that. Here. By the way, I've actually never been to Canton. Boris, do you know, are these Heggies and Baldwins, are they real places? I'm assuming somebody based this in reality, but but like I kind of like after teaching this a number of times, I'm kind of like, I want to see what are these candy stores all about if they are. Oh, that's too bad. So yeah, what does the author mean by taking dessert seriously? Yeah. By the way, I also take dessert seriously, but that's outside the scope of this little passage here. Okay. Well, we noticed though after that, kind of like our snow example here, we had supporting details, those facts and informations about the piece there. So first place, we got the two different stores and the fact that people are very polarized. So like, yeah, you'd be like, yeah, I'm either a fan of Heggies or Baldwin's here. I don't know about you, but does this sound a little extreme? If you like, you're one of those Heggies people, I can't be friends with you. No. But notice everything else is just supporting that idea. So, in addition to getting these big ideas and figuring out what are the support here, one of the things that's really going to take your reading performance to the next level is getting used to making inferences. And here is one thing Boris and I want to just highlight. We're going to put this in all caps to really, really bring this home here up at the top here. Whatever your inferences that you make on a passage must be true based off of the passage here. It if it's not directly stated, then it's just not true there. So let's think about this. If it's not, I guess if it's not supported, now it doesn't have to be, it's not directly stated, but if it's not supported there, thank you. That is the better word. It's not in, yeah. Love the way, look at the way Boris is putting that. It's not a reasonable guess there. So let's look at this one. To calm our puppy down, we head to the park for 1 hour of exercise with other neighborhood dogs. Well, let's think about what we know here. What is this author implying the result of exercising with the neighborhood dogs is going to be? Yeah, it's going to calm the puppy down here. The dog is hyper. Taking the dog to the park will calm him down there. So the dog was had lots of energy, and going to the park is going to help reduce that energy there. Anybody who's ever had a puppy before knows that this is oh my gosh, puppies are amazing. They have a stupid amount of energy, like more energy than they should. They feels like they should possibly have here. That, but so this we have evidence to support this here. But yeah, but if you don't we don't have support, then we can't prove it here. Now, something that we want to kind of think about in terms of this, we want to think about what we can actually conclude here. And I'm going to borrow an example from a colleague of ours here. And let's say Boris and I, we were out. We had a hypothesis here, and we were out to prove that all people studying for the GED like pizza. So here's the question that we have. Well, if we wanted to prove this and say, like, okay, make this a valid inference, we got proof for this here. How many people would we need to get to say, yes, I do in fact like pizza? If we consider like every person around the world studying for the GED. No, it would have to be everyone. If we want to prove it without a doubt, we have to we have to have everyone. That is hard to do. Well, but answer this question. Is there anybody here who happens to like pizza? Okay, we're done. We proved that some people like pizza here. And so we see like a very weak thing there. Oh, nice, Debbie, nice. But very weaker statements like that some people like pizza, that is a much easier statement to prove there. So we typically like to avoid trying to make grand, extreme conclusions here. So this is what we'll just say. Extreme statements are hard to prove. Now, notice we didn't say that you can't prove them. Sometimes, if a passage just said something like, I don't know, pull out a reference to a cartoon from when I was little, the movie like All Dogs Go to Heaven. We'll keep on the animal theme here. If the passage actually said that, you could make a firm statement that like, oh, something's a dog, then yeah, well, we know what's happened to that dog there. But you have to, if you have the extreme proof, you can. But if you don't, be very wary of trying to make grand statements. Grand statements are classic going beyond the passage here. So authors are often also going to be drawing conclusions there. And if you think about, or if you're asked to draw a conclusion, when we say we're drawing a conclusion here, I wouldn't just say it's like inferences. These are inferences. If you've made a logical conclusion based off of statements that are given to you in the passage, you've made an inference based on the passage here. So let's take a look through this passage we have up on the screen. Thank you for sending your resume in response to our newspaper advertisement. We consider the company and especially our employees to be the best, and we want to keep it that way. For this reason, we carefully review each resume that's sent to us. We are currently reviewing applications and expect to schedule interviews in the next couple of weeks. If you are selected for an interview, you can expect a phone call from our human resources staff. Well, what kind of conclusions can we actually draw from this? Do we know anything about the status of this person's job application? Yeah, we know what they say there. Well, Dion, I want to hold on to that thought there. It's a very formal response there. It's not very personal. It's just saying like, okay, if you are selected, here's what's going to happen. We can't draw any bigger conclusions here from this. There's lack of personal details here. And yes, it sounds an awful lot like a form letter that is sent to applicants here because we didn't actually get anything very specific there. Well, so Olivine, I love that you are bringing this up. So, let's be honest. Has anybody received something like this and kind of like read between the lines and they're like, I think this just means they rejected me here. Yeah. Does this actually tell us that though? And this is where we have to be really careful here. We don't want to take our own personal experience because, yeah, quite frankly, I read this and I was like, this is a story I've heard many times before. Blah blah blah. Thank you for sending this. We you went into the out pile there, there. But it since we don't actually specifically have it saying that, it's very formal there. But we can't see that's the thing is we got to be careful here. On the GED, we can't safely assume there. In real life, maybe, but on the GED, because it doesn't actually say that there, we don't want to go outside of what it says. It's a tricky thing to do, quite frankly. This is something Boris and I have definitely encountered a lot ourselves as we've taught, not just from our students, but even within ourselves, that be like, oh, I've got outside knowledge about this. I don't want to draw it in. Because if you say we had a passage here about board games here, well, guess one of your teachers here, his name is Boris, is going to have a lot of outside knowledge about those and probably have some opinions too about what are the good games or not there. And that might be danger for Boris because he'd be have to see like, nope, must keep my opinions to myself, must keep my outside knowledge to myself here. That. It's kind of funny. There is actually a Boris and I teach for one of the college entrance exams, and there is actually a passage in one of those about board games there. So another thing that we want to talk about here, and we're getting close. We will definitely be seeing some questions here relatively soon. In fact, actually, the next slide is going to be our first passage. But we also want to think about the writer's point of view here. What is the writer's position and perspective there? Is the writer an expert in areas here? Or does the um, or is the writer just talking from completely from the outside here with this? That. But so we want to think about that. That here, and also the tone that the writer has. Is the writer enthusiastic, positive, negative? There, it's think about like if you're reading a critic, a critic's thing, because you know you probably everyone's probably read like there's some movie critic who just loves to just have clever turns of phrase, insulting everything, single thing that he or she sees there, versus somebody who's always very positive there. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So let's take a look at here. Speaking of theater reviews here, take a look through this and let us know how would you describe the frame of mind, the way the author views this performance. Yeah, this is all very positive. Strong emotions on the surface right there. Brian Dennehy apparently transformed this author with a positive performance of this play here. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about tone here. Like rather than just being purely dry and informative, like the form letter from a job application, this one is just like gushing, like, oh my gosh, this was life changing. I know it will. Okay, so we got one more passage that we're going to be able to at least look at part of one, but before we do that, we want to talk a little bit about some text structures here. So the author will structure something in a specific way to help get their point across here. So something we've seen a lot and something you will see a lot is like, oh, here's a topic and here's some support for those topics here. I've got an idea here and I'm going to offer some support for this. So pros and cons. explaining a situation first by like, oh, here's the good things. Here are the bad things about this. Like, should I try to go out to do some errands here versus should I just stay home there? Many people, Debbie. There. Um, there. Speaking of like hipster things, the Decemberists had a song like about 20 years ago or so that was called like Angels and My Angels or something like that. So they literally put both of them in there. Um, chronological order. Sometimes they put stuff in just a like kind of a narrative, like here this happened, then this happened, then this happened there. Sometimes they will provide more information after getting that initial statement there. So transition words, of course, are going to be the things that really help inform our structure here with that. So we're not going to go into too much more detail about this, but this is all in your PDF handout here. So part of the reason we introduced this idea, though, it's all in relationship to how some of the questions are structured. That they will ask about how one part of the text relates to another part of text here. So it might be like, hey, does this support the author's opinion? Does this just provide more emphasis? Does this even argue against the author's opinion here? And another thing that we want to think about is sometimes, in fact, it may be the thing that we're about to look at, you might get a text or graphics here, and you want to think about how that relates to the information in the text here. Often it will be like a silly cartoon, but it's a silly cartoon that has some kind of a point that the cartoonist was trying to make in it. And we always want to think in context of where it relates to the text.